Hello, beautiful. And what I want to know is, what is really good, I mean really good, in your life today? Think about that. My name is Kia, and this is another episode of the Female Veterans Podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to another organization that I admire and respect. This organization, Barbara Giordano organization, it's a foundation for female veterans, and they do so many wonderful things, which you're going to find out about in this episode. I can't wait for you to meet these lovely, lovely ladies. Welcome to the Female Veterans Podcast.
Thank you.
So, will you tell us about yourselves?
All right. I'd be delighted to do that. I'm Virginia Giordano, and the foundation actually is named after my sister, Barbara, who was a nurse and a hospital administrator and many other things, but she was a person who was very interested in holistic healing. And so we had decided that we were going to set up a foundation that I am now the chairperson of. And unfortunately, she passed away before we could actually do that. So after she did, I knew her goal was to set up a women's organization. And so I did. And we've been in existence for almost 25 years as solely a women's organization. It was always about empowerment of women. However, almost 5 years ago now, we looked at what we had accomplished and the different programs that we had provided and the different opportunities for women. And we said, you know what? We have such good resources. Who else can we help? How else can we help? And so the board was given the task of finding a group of women who really needed us. And none of us were women veterans at the time on the board. And the interesting thing was we kept coming back to women veterans because there are so many organizations for veterans, but practically nothing solely for women veterans. Mm-hmm. And so this really spoke to us. So what we did in the first year and a half or so was we asked questions because we weren't veterans and we didn't really know what the women really needed. So we asked and they told us. And so that's how we became the Barbara Giordano Foundation Incorporated, serving women who served.
Oh,
and yes, so that includes everyone. It includes the women, who have left the military, who, had different ranks, who were, people who had, who were officers as opposed to people who were not. We didn't limit that way. So anyway, what we found out from the women veterans was that they needed certain things. And one of them was that and by the way, they really appreciated the fact that we asked them what they wanted rather than telling them what we were going to do.
Yes.
Because we keep hearing from the women saying, we can't believe you're asking us, you want our opinion. Yeah, because obviously if we want to provide services for them, we want to provide what they need. The foundation is not looking to replicate. We're looking to fill those niches that are not being filled. So what have we done? They talk about employment, career paths, not jobs. And so we've provided, different opportunities, different seminars, or I should say summits for education and employment, and meaningful education and employment. They also talked about wellness, their need for taking care of themselves. And so we've done a number of summits specifically on wellness, personal wellness. And we've looked at a number of things. However, our main mission, and what we find is really going to be the thing that we really want to do, is to establish a wellness community, which will mean that we will have an actual facility that will just be for women veterans on some acreage. We're thinking about 50 to 60 acres, where we can provide those services that they need. So it's a comprehensive kind of location. Because right now, for example, we're providing equine therapy for the women veterans who are suffering from post-traumatic stress. Well, we're one of the few places that obviously provide that. And one other thing I need to say is that everything that we provide for the women is free. So it becomes not a burden for anybody to say, well, I can't really go to that. And that includes transportation, by the way, also, because we know, from speaking to the women, that transportation is a huge issue.
Yes.
So we're providing equine therapy because that's not offered, but we know that's a modality that really works. We're working on, and Viviana and I were speaking about this just recently, we're also working on doing horticulture therapy because we know that's also a modality that works for women who are suffering from post-traumatic stress or sexual trauma. So, and we're looking to provide that not just for the women, but for the children, because many of our women veterans, of course, are children.
Yeah. And
so we're doing those things. But Viviana has been, and Concordia has been an incredible resource for us because Viviana is the kind of person, even though, you know, God kind of puts people into your path that needs to be there.
Yes.
And, you know, when you say to Viviana, you know, I think I want to do this, or what do you think about this? You know it's going to get done. And you know there's going to be good advice there. So we talked about actually doing something in partnership because some women out in Alaska and Hawaii had been getting in touch with us and on Facebook and saying that, you know, can't we do something for them? Because there's not a whole lot going on in those areas, and there are a lot of women veterans there. So I spoke to Viviana, and I said, you know, maybe we could do 3 online in real time seminars, okay? So the women could actually speak about to the person who was doing the facilitating and actually get immediate response. And of course, what did Viviana say? I don't want to speak for Viviana, but go ahead. Viviana said, of course, we'll get that done right away.
Do it.
Yes. And you know what? In the spring, it's already in the works, and we've identified the 3 areas. We've gotten the 3 people who will be leading the workshops, and in May, it's going to happen.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, so absolutely. That's what happens when there's a really great partnership and when you're not in competition, but you're working together for a common good. And so, but I think Viviana should really tell you something about what she's been up to also. Viviana is on our advisory board. And, you know, as I said before, none of the board members were women veterans. And so, and none of the board members still are women veterans, but we have an advisory board of all women veterans from every service. And Viviana is from the Marines.
And hey, Navy girls love our Marines.
We work together. We work together.
Hospital Corps takes care
That's
of
right. That's right. My son's in the Navy. He's retiring in 3 years. So we're married to each other.
So this has been an incredible relationship because Viviana's not only her firsthand knowledge of women veterans, but also just her kind of, you know, go get it kind of stamina and her desire to help. And she's been such a gift, not only to the organization, but she's been an incredible gift to this whole community in, you know, Westchester County, New York City, and beyond.
I have to tell you that the Barbara Giordano Foundation, I'm Viviana DeCohen, and I've been a benefactor of the Barbara Giordano Foundation. I have been receiving emails and invites, not from the foundation, but from another source that used to send them to me years ago. And I used to always give them to other women to go. I think it was about 2 years ago, they were having a luncheon. And I got a charter bus for the women that were at my school, and we went there. And when I saw this beautiful room that was so well decorated and so inviting, I I knew then that I had to look up this foundation. And when I saw that they had been doing this for so many years, and I was on the verge of having a celebration for women in military, women in government, women in education, I knew one of the women that I had to call in to celebrate was the CEO and chairman of the board, this woman sitting right next to me, Virginia Giordano, because what this foundation has done, when I took the women and they got off the bus, first of all, they could not believe that this was free. When they saw this beautiful banquet hall that was so beautifully decorated, and they had the free tchotchkes and the gift bags and the food and just everything. And I had to leave early, so I didn't have the pleasure of seeing Virginia make her speech, but the feedback from the women that this made them feel human, whole, special, and for that time that they were in the room, that they had forgotten any ills that they had or anything that they were going through.
Oh God, that's amazing.
This is why I knew that she had to be one of my celebrated women on last May, to call her in and to let her know that what she has done for these women, and now she's going, nationally, is second to none. So appreciated and so very needed, that she asked me to come aboard as one of her advisors. I mean, she's talking about me. She doesn't realize she's been doing this since the 90s. She has impacted hundreds and hundreds of thousands of women, and allowing them that moment that they're coming in for services with no charge. I always tell people, and it's true, if as a person who served the country, if we could bounce a basketball, we would all be given the keys to at least a Kia, apartments at no charge, a food card to never have to worry about being hungry. Yes. And yet we had the highest call, serving God and country, family, and still paying it forward, serving our community, because the service never ends. We're always paying it forward. So what the foundation has done, I have to tell you, I'm just so delighted that they've asked me to come aboard and to be one of their advisors and to partner with them. And this lovely woman next to me, I just love her so much. She's more than a colleague to me. I'm telling you, she's like a sister. I'm
about to cry.
I truly love her, and the work that she's done and will do. I'm telling you, it's going to reverberate throughout lives that have already been changed and embarking on change for a long time to come.
Well, I feel the same way, obviously, about Viviana, and I didn't pay her to say all those things either. It's just, but I mean, there might be a dinner in our future, and not at McDonald's. So, but going back to our desire to set up a wellness community for the women veterans, what we're hoping to do in the very near future is to do that, but then to have it replicated throughout the United States. See, that's really the goal, because there are women all over this country who are not being supported, and I don't mean supported financially. I'm talking about emotionally, physically, and part of the mission of the foundation is education. That's really the key to everything, is that we have to educate the public about women veterans. Absolutely. That women have been serving since the beginning of our history.
Yes.
Without recognition, without a lot of support. And I think it's a critical piece for us to get that word out. That's why we were so happy, to do this podcast with you and to hear your story, your remarkable story.
Yes.
And to be able to share some information, because, when we talk about, we're in New York, as you know.
Yes.
And when you talk about that there are over 200,000 women 200,000 women veterans in this tri-state area, meaning New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, people are shocked because they say, well, we don't know any women veterans. That's because women veterans don't speak up. Right. Women veterans don't say, you know what, I'm a veteran. I deserve. And so that definitely has to end.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of our mission is not just to provide services that they need that they're not getting, but also to educate the public about how important women are and have always been.
That's right.
The awareness is such a critical element, because I always say that it's the prevailing perception that veterans are male is why women don't get the donations and why they don't get the services and get their needs met. And as you know, part of the goal of this podcast is to bring that same awareness.
The women veterans have to learn to speak up. Mm-hmm. They have to, it's always interesting when I go to an event and the men come in and they have their jackets on with their, and the hats that say, veteran. Whatever, veteran, Vietnam, blah, blah, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the women, if there are any women there at all, nothing. You'd never know. You don't know who they are, whatever. And then what happens, too, is that we found that Viviana was talking before about an event that we did and last year where we honored women veterans, obviously in general, but 3 specific women veterans, one from World War II, who's 100, and she acts like she's 40, one from the Vietnam era, and then one from the Korean conflict.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'd love to talk to them.
The women, they're amazing. They're amazing women. But afterwards, it was so interesting to me because the children of the World War II veteran came up to me, and I was standing with their mom, and they said to her, "Mom, we didn't know any of those things that you had done in the Second World War." And what she had done was she taught the pilots how to use radar.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
No little thing. I mean, and yet, so she said to them, "Well, it wasn't any big deal. That was what I had to do." You see, and that's the mentality, as opposed to, you know what, yes, I can be humble, but this is the reality. This is what I did, and this is, yes, and it was important.
Right. We throw it on the pile as women with other things that we know that we have to do, but also the stigma of when we come home. I served in the 80s, so during the Grenada conflict, and I remember coming home, and you're so right, because when you go to the VA, they're asking you if you were here for your husband, and you're there for yourself, but also. Right, but also the stigma also of who is a veteran has to be made clear, because there are so many, not the men and the women, but especially the women who don't feel that they are veterans because they may not have seen conflict. And I have seen this conversation amongst the women and the men. We have to support each other as women and know that this is for those who've served, who are veterans. And these things, is posted on the VA website, who is a veteran, if you have served in any era. But I have seen this conflict even amongst the women on who is or is not a veteran, and it leaves those to be cast into the dark shadows, and to allow themselves to feel that because they haven't served in a certain era or had a certain MOS that they are not veterans. But we have to remind them that those who have served, those who have raised their hand, those who have finished the boot camp, the 90 days, 180 days, whatever it was, that they are so worthy of being recognized, that they are so worthy because they have given the highest call to God and country and family, and will always continue to serve, but also that they are deserving of going to another level that has excellence on it. Why? Because I always tell them, if you can serve others, then why can't you serve yourself?
I mean, really, that is beautiful. And I got to tell you something. I was kind of like that because I served at the end of Desert Storm and it was peacetime. And I'm really proud of it now because I'm like, that might be the last peacetime we ever see, unfortunately. That's right. I served during that special, it's special now. And, but before, I used to feel like I wasn't a, air quotes, real veteran. because I didn't see wartime. And it took me a lot of time and meeting amazing people like you to talk me out of that mindset and to realize that my time of service, hey, I raised my hand. I gave up my human rights and became property. I served my country just the same, even though it was peacetime.
That's
and you know
right.
what? I spread that message to girls who maybe got forced out of the military due to what was described as maybe a personality disorder because they were being stalked or they were raped and they didn't serve their full time of service, or they only served a year or something like that, to let them know, hey, yes, though, you did raise your hand. You did enter the service. You did volunteer. So no matter what happened to you while you were serving, that you didn't finish your full time in, you did time in. You did serve.
That's right.
So it's valid. And
you passed boot camp. You made it.
That's right. You can call yourself a veteran, because I have women who say to me, I didn't call myself a veteran. I didn't talk about my military service for 20 years.
Right.
I had somebody who just told me that, and she's the director of a veterans program.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't ever identify myself as a woman veteran, and yet she's in charge of that program.
Right.
And yet the men have no difficulty with that whatsoever.
Right.
And so that's why so much of what we do in the foundation is about education.
Yes.
If people don't understand that women have served and that women continue to put their lives on the line, and in certain ways even making a bigger sacrifice, because many of them are moms, and they have to leave their children behind, to do this. And then they come back and full well, because we hear these stories all the time, the children are angry at them.
Yeah.
Why did you leave me?
Sure.
Yes. And so we want people to understand that women are invaluable to us as a nation and have always been. And we've got to empower women, and that's part of the focus of the foundation also, the women veterans, to speak up for themselves also. Because what we don't want are people who become victims, but we want to empower the women to move forward and to be the best that they can be, and to be able to transition from what they were doing in the military into a productive life outside of the military, which is the other thing that we find, is that a lot of the women say, well, I painted in the military. I don't know how to make a career out of that. I was just this or I was just that. Mm-hmm. And yet, obviously, those are skills that are marketable. And so that's, an important lesson also, is that whatever you learn, regardless of where it is and what it is that you can use that to move forward.
Amazing. I know when I transitioned out of the military, I had a very difficult time. It would have been such a godsend to have come across an organization like yours, dedicated to helping women transition out and to thrive in life. And I mean, it's so beautiful to hear everything that you've done and everything that you're doing to help female veterans is so inspiring.
But I also need to say that one of the things that the people who listen to your podcast can help us with is that we want to identify these women veterans, because the women don't come forward and don't say that they're veterans. So we're not servicing the number of women that we should be servicing, that we could be servicing. So I'm hoping that the women will reach out to us and let us know, where are you, and what do you need, and how can we help, and to participate in some of the programs that we provide, and take advantage of our wellness community center that we'll be setting up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. They're learning through this foundation, they're getting the information on how to be an entrepreneur, utilizing the skills that they have, and bringing the services to them. And plus, they're being fed very well. So they're coming to a wonderful seminar. Their bellies are being full, but also they're getting the information. This foundation is not one that just gives you the information on a piece of paper and say, here are the resources, here you go. They're bringing in the people who have already done this. They're bringing in the experts from corporate, the people who have done this from the ground up and done this as a startup. So they're getting the one-on-one coaching to be able to do this. And then they have the women that have taken advantage of these entrepreneurships and have gone out and proven, and again, just open up businesses and have thriving businesses because of the information from the foundation.
You know, when we did our Education and Employment Summit, you know, I think some people first thought, well, you know, there are other organizations that have done this. But what we did was at the beginning of the day, everybody had to set a goal. And by the end of the day, the women had to have accomplished that goal. So that meant they either had to apply for college, they had to actually connect with a recruiter on a career path, because we had employers there that actually could, like Morgan Stanley and places like that, right, that, you know, actually would be a career path. And so they had to accomplish something so that when they came to the end of the day, yes, it was interesting and it was fun. And we had panel discussions and, you know, the experts come in and really talk to them. And then they had the opportunity to actually speak to these people one-on-one. And Viviana's right. There were a number of women who had ideas about how to set up a business, and they didn't know how to go about doing that. So we had somebody there that dealt only with setting up, you know, your private businesses, and that could help them with that. And so it was a productive day in the sense of that they actually had to take a step forward. It wasn't just, I'm going to listen to this and then I'm going to go home and forget about it, but they actually had to do something. So what wound up happening is that just in that one day, there were 2 women who actually got positions in really great companies, and
That's
there
right.
were 3 women who actually applied for college.
That's amazing.
Right. It's amazing. I want to tell you what's the impressive side of it. The impressive side of it is that the woman sitting next to me, Virginia Giordano, who is the CEO, chairman of the board, is at every program. It doesn't matter if 5 people, 10 women, 15 women, or 100 women show up. She is at every program. She is hands-on. She's not doing the welcome and then exiting stage left. She's there throughout the entire course of this program and giving them her private information on how to stay in touch so that she can continue to motivate them and encourage them and enlighten them. You don't see that. You never see the CEO, chairman of the board, once the welcome is done, that they stay. They're eating. She's eating with the women. She's talking to them. She's going to every table, to every person to ensure that she knows their name. And when she sees them again, guess what? She's calling them by name. She's remembering their stories, and she's saying, okay, now that you've benefited from this while you're here, just to let you know what we have coming up. And they're doing also, I have to tell you, wonderful things that are fun, dinner theaters and murder mysteries and things that are outside of the box, and, you know, pajama parties are coming up and spa days. And this is the outside things that we need to remind us and to allow us that moment of forgetting any trauma that has happened or that is going on, to remind you that you can be well in a room. And she's talking about a wellness program coming, but she brings wellness in the room to every program that she has. That is because of her presence.
I do want to mention this one thing that's happening that I'm excited about, and we're so grateful for. And actually, I have to say, we're grateful to so many people who have been helpful to us, yes, and supportive, and we need more support, and we need more people to come out and to be able to say and to spread that word about women veterans and how important they are. So that's part of it. But Jessica Lynn, who you might know, she's internationally recognized as a great country western singer, and she actually comes from an area that's not far from where Viviana and I are based. And so she heard about the foundation, and by the way, she just came back from Europe, so she's just an amazing woman. She was honored at the UN, and incredible. But she heard about the foundation, and so we spoke to her about it, and she said, well, I want to do something. She said, because I feel strongly about veterans, but she says, I've not done anything specifically for women veterans. And I understand your passion, our passion about this and the need for it. So she's doing an event just for the women veterans and for the Barbara Giordano Foundation on March 11th. I know. So we're very excited by that because that's one way that we can certainly get the word out about women veterans and, as Viviana said, have a good time.
Yes.
So, because I think that that's an important part of it. And it is an important part also for the women veterans who participate is that, sometimes life is just hard. And sometimes you need to be able to get away from that.
That's right.
And just laugh.
That's right.
And so
we
tend to do things where we've had women comedians come and just be, participate in a program, and just so that you can just, laugh out loud and see the universality of us and how we're all connected and how, the same things kind of speak to all of us,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think Viv has made a really good point is that we do many things because even though some of those things are fundraisers, the underlying reason why we do it is, and I shouldn't say that because the treasurer would kill me, but it's not really about the money. It's really about getting the word out. Right. It's about educating the public about women veterans. And the money is helpful, but it is really about the education piece of it. And so now more than ever, that because our military is in so many places all over the world that are dangerous, really dangerous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's hard on our bodies physically, mentally, everything.
We don't understand what it's like, I think, at any given time to think, well, I'm in danger. When I'm at all times. I'm not safe when I'm sleeping. Mm-hmm. I'm not safe. I have to totally be vigilant at all times. We don't really understand that and appreciate that for men and women, but particularly, I think, for the women,
Yes.
And so, we really welcome this opportunity to speak to you about this.
Absolutely.
Because this is what we're hearing and seeing, and of course, Viviana from her own personal experience, and me now from talking to so many women veterans, the stories are so similar. Mm-hmm. That's the part that's so touching to me, is that, we're all so similar.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true.
It's true. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, the connectedness of it. There's a common thread that runs through all of us, especially us women who have served, just by virtue of being in a predominantly male environment and how we have to adapt and assimilate into that culture. Even now, even still today, so many years after we've been serving for the country, and our experiences are all unique but the same. So I definitely can appreciate what you're saying about the connection there. Mm-hmm.
Can I say one other thing? I was to a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it was in honor of veterans, obviously. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing was there were about, I would say, a good 40 people in the room, all men. I was the only female. And but I wasn't a veteran, but I was invited, obviously, because of the foundation. And the person who was a politician, I will say, in a key position in the area, walked around the room and shook hands with everybody and came to me, didn't say anything to me, and skipped over me.
Oh, wow.
Spoke to every other person in the room because he assumed I couldn't be a veteran. And so, therefore, he probably figured I was somebody's wife or mom or aunt or sister or somebody. But he walked around the room, every one of them. I watched this, and I thought, wow, I'm invisible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to be invisible when you meet, but I was invisible. And, this is why it's really critical. The work that you're doing is so important. Right. To be able to share this kind of information.
Right. And this is why we want the women who have served to allow their voices to be heard, especially those that we end up finding are in shelter and may not have been asked, are you a veteran? Because we need to know that you're out there, and then we want you to know that you're not alone. that this was my story, but I had no benefit of shelter because of where I lived when I got out of the military. There was no shelter system. There was nowhere to go. I was thrown out in the street with 2 babies in the rain. There was no shelter system. The sheriff says you have to come down off that property. And I watched him get in his car because my mind said he's going to take us to a shelter, and he drove away. And so I need the women to know you're not alone. You're not alone, and don't allow yourself to be invisible. You're worthy. You served. You've served. Let someone serve you. If someone wants to assist you, let them. Let them. It's okay, and that we're all here pushing and pulling and pairing, the PEERING, pairing each other and ensuring that we all march forward and that we all get to that finish line. Doesn't have to be together, but that someone's leading in the front, leading on the side, and leading in the rear to ensure that no woman who served is left behind with the things that's needed, with the things that you're worthy of, and with the things that you want to have.
That's
and
right.
I want to say one other thing. I think if we had to summarize the focus, the mission of the foundation, it's empowerment.
Empowerment.
That's it. It's empowerment of each woman. And, and not to look at themselves or anybody as a victim.
That's right.
Because there are so many opportunities. There's so many people. Most people really do want to help. They just maybe don't know how to. And that's why your podcast is important also. There are many ways to help. But it's about empowerment of each woman, of each of us. Because you know what? If you're empowered, you make me better. Okay?
That's right.
And so it's not just about you, it's about all of us. And we have to start looking at ourselves as one nation, and that we are all connected and all important to each other.
Yes.
And if you're successful, doesn't mean to say I can't be successful.
That's right.
We all have that ability to be successful. And we all have talents and skills and gifts that we need to be able to share.
Absolutely. No more marking time. It's time to march forward.
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, and something else I always say, a little quote that I see around that I love, empowered women empower women.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And so we are not victims.
No.
Like you said, we're survivors.
That's
and
right.
We're thrivers.
That's right.
And that's the goal of your organizations, is why we align. Because your organization does this, and this podcast aims to do the same thing, is to help our community of female veterans thrive, no matter what your experience was, good or bad.
That's right. The African proverb says, alone you run fast, but together you can go farther. And that's what we want to do. We want to go. We want to take it as far as we can go. As far as we can go.
The whole country.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions for you, 2 more questions before we wrap it up. My first question is, will you please tell me more specifically about your programs?
So, which program would you like to know about? I mentioned the equine therapy. And, we looked at, as I said to you, we asked the women what they needed. And a number of them told us about post-traumatic stress, and that's why they're not able to move forward. And so we looked at different modalities. I mean, they can go to the VA and they can see a therapist and that kind of thing. And but we were looking for something that was not easily accessible, and yet we knew after research that it had a huge impact in a positive way. So we were courted by several, actually, equine therapy programs, and we have partnered with one right now. And actually, our 3rd cohort is going through in a month or 2 of women veterans, just of women veterans. And what's going to happen at the end of that 6-month period is that we are going to go back and we're going to follow up, because this is the important part of it. is that you can provide programs, but if you don't know that they really worked, and they seem good on paper, and people seem happy when they're there, but the fact is that you have to know by following up, what impact did it really have? Was it long term? Did it last? Okay, is your life better as a result of it? Because the whole point about the foundation is we don't want to just do something for the sake of doing something. We want to do something that's actually going to make a difference, and in the lives of these women and their families. So, as I said, we're starting the third cohort, but the first cohort now is coming up to a 6-month period, and now we're going to go back to them and we're going to find out how things are working for them. Okay, because maybe this program needs to be tweaked, and we're always looking to tweak it to make it better. For example, with the equine therapy, it's 5 weeks, it's 5 sessions, okay, all-day sessions. However, we added a 6th session, which Viviana headed up along with someone else on our advisory board, that dealt with, well, Viviana, maybe you should speak about it. It actually dealt with separation anxiety, because what we were finding is that the women at the end of the 5th session didn't want to leave.
Right.
I see.
And, they felt so good and they felt so nurtured and they were learning so much, but they didn't want to leave. But that's an important part of life, is that you have to be able to move forward. And so what we did was, what the foundation did was, and Viviana set this up, was that we added a 6th session. And the 6th session was just for the women veterans, led by, as I said, Viviana as a woman veteran, to help with that concept of transition and separation. And that was really powerful.
Right. Very, very powerful. How do you move from what you think is secure footing to now stepping back out into the unknown?
Right. The unknown's a scary place, but
it's a scary place. It's the only place you grow. And then we have that military saying that we embrace the suck and we march on anyway, and that it's we wanted them to know that they are worthy and they've gotten to a place where they have the strength that they need that's already in them. And now that they've gotten the tools, they have to march forward, utilizing those tools, grabbing another sister along the way, with the hope and the anticipation of their next great thing, because their next great thing is right here. It's right here. And all they have to do is reach for it. And I want to say something else about the Education and Employment Summit. I think this is such an important point, is that the women had to actually be able to move forward at the end of that day. I've gone to a lot of summits. I'm sure your listeners have gone to a million summits also. And you have a good time and you learn things and you pick up information and you have all sorts of papers at the end and you get a bag and you put them all in the bag and then nothing happens. Mm-hmm. But the point is that no matter what it is that we do, there has to be something that comes, something specific and concrete that comes from it that moves the women forward. Whether it be that they just learn a technique, for example, about how, this might sound silly, how to breathe. So because a lot of us don't breathe correctly, and believe it or not, that impacts on how we feel about ourselves, how we are able to move forward or not. But the fact is that there are so many different things that we can teach the women and that we want them to use, but then we have to make sure that they are using them. And that's where I think we're different, is that there's follow-up to make sure that it is actually having the impact that we want it to have. Because frankly, we don't want to spend money and time working on something that really just doesn't work. It looks good on paper, but the reality is it's not really doing what it is that is our mission, which is empowerment. Right, wow. Right. If you want to know what a woman veteran who's been empowered to do looks like, then look on the Barbara Giordano Foundation page and look for Anika, N-N-E-K, Anika Bell, U.S. Navy extraordinaire, didn't see herself as a veteran, got some information on how to, started with a makeup truck that she had situated in the city, went and got some more information on how to go to a Stony Brook management course, graduated tops by way of a summer course at Harvard on scholarship that she received 2 A's in, who now has her own boutique celebrity store. This is what it looks like, but it's not just a store. Inside that room, because she was given tools on how to pay it forward, she has women in there who are learning how to do their own makeovers, learning how to make a vision board. She has taken it to another step. Idinka Bell, U.S. Navy of Now Celebrities Boutique. And I'm telling you, this is what it looks like. This is why we want to get the word out on what the Barbara Giordano Foundation is doing. They're changing lives. They're saving lives. They're making lives. And these women veterans are paying it forward into other lives. And I just want to say again, I have to say while I can do this on the airwaves, I want to thank you, Virginia Giordano, for bringing this vision to fruition. I don't think you realize the impact, just like a sound wave that is still reverberating from the life of one and now hundreds of thousands that's going to continue. And I cannot wait until the horticulture, because I know what it's going to do. But I want you to know that right now, where you are right now within the foundation, oh my gosh, that how much you matter and how much you have done to change lives and save lives of these women.
Well, I really appreciate that. I really do. But I have to say that there are people doing incredible things all over. And I think it's important, and through your podcast, maybe we can make those connections with some of these people.
Absolutely.
Because I do think that there's power and strength in numbers. And we're not in competition.
No competition.
We're about supporting each other and supporting, as I said, I love Concordia College, where Viviana is and because they have a vision. She has a vision about how to help women veterans, how to help veterans, how to educate.
GI Bill, no GI Bill, scholarships. Mama V is here. We have a peer support program here at Concordia College. Our women veterans, we get together, we eat, we pair up, we network. But I'm about food, shelter, clothing, resources, gift cards to make sure you eat, resources to make sure you're not evicted, your mortgage is paid. We're all about the resources here at Concordia College. And I thank Virginia again for bringing us aboard to ensure that these women are educated. I was a student when I started this minding my business, and I was on the campus at another college and asked where their Veterans Resource Center was. They said they did not have one, and I approached the president, and now that college has two. I was able to erect two through grants and finding people to help me, make a film and Operation Buddy Up was a peer program that helped those who were academically dismissed and failing to come back and be paired with a buddy, because I'm telling you, when we help each other and push and pull each other, just like that boot camp, nobody left behind, it works. And so we have 211 that were failing in undergrad that said, Mama V, I can't do this. And I said, you come back and meet us tonight, we'll do it. And all 211, not just undergrad, but we did Operation Push them into their master's program, with 4 doing PhD, including myself right now. But this foundation that they saw a need and continue to seed the need. And so we need help to get the word out there. And then we need people who are interested in allowing this to move forward to come and to donate freely and to come and to witness that lives are being changed. Sometimes people don't know where to put their seed, where to put their money. And I want to say, come and see what it is that this foundation is doing, again, to change lives, to save lives, but also to make brand new lives.
That's so beautiful.
It's not about this moment. It's about, it's about the future. It's not just, okay, we did something very nice today and this was great and don't we feel good and go home. This is about a long-term goal, a long-term vision. That's why we say when we're talking about this wellness community that we're setting up, that we're going to replicate it, because that is the legacy of the foundation and of people like Viviana and the other board members, that
and yourself,
and you for sure, that we have something that is sustainable, something that is meaningful.
Yes.
Okay, not just for the moment, but moving forward.
Making a carbon footprint.
That's right.
Making a carbon footprint.
That's right. We have to make the world better.
Yeah, and I want every woman to get those boot prints in there. Your boot print, your footprint, and to know that you're outstanding. You're still romping, stomping, whether 30 years ago, 50 years ago, however many years ago, you're still outstanding, excellent, romping, stomping, and you're still serving today, and that you still matter, and that you have worth, and that you have value.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this has been amazing. This is beautiful. And what you're doing is just, it's like I said in the beginning, just so incredible, so amazing. And I could not see any other way than bringing you on this podcast and spreading your message to anyone and everyone who will listen to it. And in fact, as you were talking, before I tell you or ask you where we can find you and how to get in touch with you, I just had this idea on the spot. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the Female Veterans Podcast, but I do a live stream show, and it is called Hot Topics. It's on my Facebook page, on our Facebook page called Hot Topics Live. And we also have a podcast called Hot Topics, the podcast. And what we do every month is we have just created a fundraiser for organizations that we admire, love, and respect that are doing good for people who are either veterans or who suffer with anxiety and depression, which is what my co-host is very passionate about. And so I would love to invite you guys on to Hot Topics sometime in the next weeks, so that we can do a live stream there as well, and try to reach even more people with your message, and perhaps create a fundraiser for your organization. And what we do is up to $1,000, we will match that and donate to the organization. Wow. We don't know how much you'll get, but we'll match whatever we get. And
thank you.
That is a wonderful opportunity and a great.
Yes.
Well, let me just say, we accept.
Wonderful.
Speaking for Viviana and I, we accept.
Yes. I would love that so much. So we could talk more about the wonderful things you're doing at the Barbara Giordano Foundation. And with that, I want to ask you one more question, and that is where we can find you. How can we get involved?
Well, we're on Facebook and we're Twitter. They can go to our website, which is the giordanofoundation.org. And there are links on the website to all our different social media. So we are out there. And so they just need to get in touch. But they can also get in touch with me directly, virginia.bgfoundation@gmail.com. So if they want to send me just a private email that way, I'm happy to take it through that email address.
That's beautiful. So everyone listening, I just want to say that this organization is so amazing, and you've just heard how passionate they are about helping female veterans. And so if you or someone you know is a female veteran in need, reach out. If you are looking to sponsor or donate, this is an organization that you want to consider. And I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you,
Virginia and Viviana, for coming and spending this time with me and sharing about your organization. It has been such a pleasure to connect with you and learn more.
Well, it's been a pleasure for me, I have to say, and it was wonderful meeting you and hearing your story also, and the work that you're doing. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
What an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you guys. This has just been such a wonderful experience, one that I surely won't forget. So we'll keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely.
And to you listening, I'm always so grateful for you. And I want to thank you so much for sharing some time with me and hearing about this amazing organization. And for everyone who has shared their story with me, keep them coming. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.
We love you too.